So going back to the creation of the company, all three of you had tenure track positions at really prestigious universities. What did you see? What caused you to pick up and put that on pause for a moment and start Inception?
Yeah, for me it was that kind of seminal result that we had in my lab. There was this paper that we published where for the first time we were able to get diffusion models to be competitive with autoregressive models on text generation. That was something that everybody was saying, it cannot be done, and we were able to do it. And these diffusion models that we trained, they were still pretty small, like GPT-2 sized models, but they were producing results of similar quality to autoregressive models, 10x faster. And so I was just very excited about the idea of building something completely different. Like all the other big labs, they were all betting on the same kind of architecture. They are all more or less clones of each other. And there's this amazing technology that's going to change the world. And then you see everyone is kind of like building the same thing, and there's an opportunity to do something different. It just felt like, we have to see what happens if we scale this up. And unfortunately, it was just not possible to do it at Stanford. It just takes an amount of, basically we trained the biggest model we could, given the compute and the engineering capacity that was available in the lab. But in order to get it to the next stage, we really needed more compute, we needed more engineers, infrastructure. Like there's a lot of work that goes into producing a commercial scale diffusion language model. And the only way to do it was to start a company and actually build a team that is really pushing all together in that direction.
Yeah, so for me, it was during my PhD, I had also gotten a chance to spend time working at different research labs. I'd seen the early days of OpenAI, Google Brain, Microsoft and Meta, so very, very different environments, all of them trying to bring AI to the real world. And what I learned from those experiences, in addition to bringing about new technologies through academia, was that if you really bring a group of people together to work on a topic within deep learning where there's really potential for success, resources can be extremely valuable. So that's why we started to think about how can diffusion be a paradigm that can be scaled. And in my own research group at UCLA, we had seen that diffusion for RL was working really well. So a lot of the research that I'd done following my PhD was at the intersection of generative models and reinforcement learning. And when I talked to Stefano and Volo, and we were talking about how diffusion for text could be a new paradigm, thinking about how that can then be brought to the real world by grounding it with reinforcement learning was an extremely exciting proposition. So that was how I personally thought about taking this plunge.
And for me, similar story. We've been working on diffusion in the lab in my group at Cornell, we're doing early work on mass diffusion for several years. And similarly, we saw that the performance was getting increasingly better and better and approaching and ultimately matching the performance of autoregressive models. And then it just became obvious that this could be a superior approach to generation that could actually work. At the time, no one really realized that we were at that breakthrough point. There were only a few groups in the world working on this problem, which were pretty much our research groups, and that just made it extremely exciting to have the possibility of have the kind of impact and move the industry to a new generation of language models. But of course, to actually make that happen, it is a lot of work, and it takes a lot of engineering effort, takes a lot of capital, a lot of resources, a lot of compute, and the only way to do this is by starting a company.